Have you ever wondered what happens to the person who walked away from you? The one who never seemed to need you, never seemed to chase you, never seemed to care whether you stayed or left. Have you ever thought about what goes through their mind when the silence finally becomes deafening? Because here's what nobody tells you. When you finally stop reaching out, when you finally stop explaining yourself, when you finally stop begging someone to love you the way you deserve to be loved, something incredible happens. The power shifts and everything they thought they knew about you, everything they took for granted, starts to crumble. Now, if you've been the one who always texted first, if you've been the one who always apologized even when you did nothing wrong, if you've been the one who held on so tight that your hands bled, then this video is going to change something inside of you. I need you to stay until the very end, because what I'm about to share with you has the power to rewrite how you see yourself. It will make you understand why silence is the loudest message you can ever send. And it will show you exactly what happens inside the mind of the person who never thought you would leave. So many people break. So many people stay too long. They sacrifice their peace, their confidence, their identity, all because they thought love meant being the one who tried harder. But I'm here to tell you something different. The moment you stop, the moment you go completely silent, the universe shifts in a direction you never expected. And by the time this video ends, you will understand exactly why your silence is your greatest power. So keep watching. This is the moment you stop being someone's option and start being your own priority. Let me speak directly to the part of you that is still carrying this weight. The weight of being the one who always picked up the phone, the one who always sent the first message. The one who always said good morning and good night, even when the silence from the other side stretched for hours. You know exactly what I'm talking about. You've lived it. You've breathed it. And it has cost you more than you are willing to admit. This is for you. You were the one who forgave when you should have walked away. You were the one who stayed when every red flag was waving right in front of your face. You were the one who made excuses for their absence, their coldness, their indifference. You told yourself that maybe tomorrow would be different. Maybe they would finally see how much you love them. Maybe they would finally reciprocate the energy you poured into them without hesitation. But tomorrow came and nothing changed and you stayed anyway. That takes a special kind of strength. A strength that the world rarely acknowledges. Because most people cannot understand why someone would keep showing up for someone who barely showed up for them. Most people do not understand that love does not always follow logic. That the heart sometimes chooses people who choose everyone else except you. You felt that pain. The pain of being the only one fighting for something. The pain of wondering why your love was not enough. The pain of looking in the mirror and questioning your own worth because someone else could not see it. That pain is real. It is deep and it is valid. Nobody talked about how exhausting it would be to love someone who treated your devotion like it was disposable. Nobody warned you that the person who needed you the most would be the one who made you feel like you needed nothing at all. You learned that lesson the hard way. You learned it through tears at 3 a.m. You learned it through swallowed pride and bitten tongues. You learned it through pretending you were okay when you were falling apart. And still you tried harder. That is not weakness. That is not foolishness. That is a heart that loved with everything it had, even when it received nothing in return. And that kind of heart deserves to be recognized. It deserves to be honored. It deserves to finally be seen by the one person who matters most, you. Because right now, you are so focused on being seen by someone who never learned how to see you clearly. You have been looking outward for validation that can only come from within. And that ends today. This video is going to show you that your pain was not wasted. That every moment you spent trying to make someone love you the right way was not thrown away. It was preparation. It was building something inside of you that you did not even know existed. Keep watching, because in the next section, we are going to talk about exactly what was happening on the other side of this equation. We are going to understand why some people operate this way, and most importantly, we are going to show you why your silence from this point forward is going to change everything. Now let me explain something that might finally make everything make sense. You need to understand what was really happening on the other side of your efforts because the confusion you felt was not random. The mixed signals were not accidental. The hot and cold behavior that kept you walking on eggshells was not a mystery you were too dumb to solve. It was a pattern, and once you see it clearly, you will never unsee it. There is a specific type of person who operates in relationships like this. They come into your life with intense passion, overwhelming attention, and a version of themselves that feels like everything you have ever wanted. They sweep you off your feet so fast that you do not even realize you are already drowning. They make you feel like the most important person in the world. They make you believe that this connection is rare, deep, and destined to be permanent. And then slowly, almost imperceptibly, the energy shifts. The messages become shorter. The calls become less frequent. The effort that was once abundant starts to feel like a chore they are doing reluctantly. They pull away, not with a dramatic exit, but with a slow, gradual retreat that leaves you confused and desperate for answers. Here is what you need to understand about this behavior. This is not because you did something wrong. This is not because you were not attractive enough or caring enough or good enough. This pattern exists because of something inside of them, something broken, something they learned a long time ago that told them that getting too close to another person was dangerous, that depending on someone emotionally was a form of weakness, that if they let themselves be truly known, truly seen, truly vulnerable, they would eventually be hurt, abandoned, or controlled. So they protect themselves by keeping everyone at arm's length. And you became the perfect target for their pattern because your heart was open, because you gave freely, because you did not play games, because you loved without holding back. They saw that in you, and somewhere deep in their mind, your willingness to keep trying made you safe. You were the one who would stay. You were the one who would accept their breadcrumbs. You were the one they could pull back to whenever they felt lonely, without ever having to give too much of themselves. That is the pattern. That is the trap. And you fell into it because you have a beautiful, generous heart that believed in the potential of what you could have together. They never told you that they were not capable of what you were offering. They never admitted that they could not meet you at the level you deserved. They just slowly withdrew. And because you loved them, you tried harder. You reached out more. You gave more of yourself trying to bridge the gap they were creating. Here is what happens inside their mind. They check their phone. Nothing. They wait. Nothing. They tell themselves, you will text soon. Nothing. Hours pass. Days pass. And the silence becomes louder than any argument ever could. They start to wonder if you are okay. They start to wonder if you have moved on. They start to wonder if maybe you never needed them the way they thought you did. And that thought is unbearable to them. Not because they love you, but because they always believed they were the one with the power. They always believed they could leave you hanging and you would still be there when they decided to come back. But now you are not there. And they do not know what to do with that reality. Your silence forces them to sit alone with themselves. And for someone who has spent their whole life avoiding emotional depth, sitting alone with their own thoughts is their worst nightmare. They cannot escape it. They cannot distract themselves from it. They have to confront the emptiness they have been running from for years. And for the first time in a long time, they feel something they do not want to feel. They feel replaceable. They feel forgotten. They feel like maybe they were not as special as they convinced themselves they were. And that is the lesson they never learned while you were still fighting for them. Keep watching, because in the next section, we are going to talk about what you need to hear right now. We are going to address the lies you have been telling yourself about why you were not enough. And we are going to replace those lies with a truth that is going to set you free. That is how they test people. That is how they keep their power. They see how much you will tolerate before you break. And when you do not break, they pull away further. Not because they want you to chase them, but because part of them does not believe anyone can really stay. So they keep pushing until the universe proves them right. And every time you came back after they pulled away, every time you forgave them, every time you accepted their return without any real change, you taught them that you would tolerate this behavior indefinitely. So they never changed. Now you are sitting there wondering why you were never enough. But the truth is, you were never going to be enough for someone who cannot even give enough to themselves. Keep watching, because in the next section, we are going to talk about what happens when you finally break that pattern. What happens when you refuse to play the game anymore, and why your silence is going to shake them in ways words never could. Now I want you to understand something that is going to change the way you see everything. When you finally go silent, when you stop texting, when you stop reaching out, when you stop trying to explain yourself or ask for answers, something inside of them does not just notice. Something inside of them breaks. And here is why. Every avoidant person lives in a world where emotional control equals safety. They learned a long time ago that if they could control how close or far they kept people, they could protect themselves from being hurt. They built their entire emotional world around this principle. They decided who gets access to them. They decided when to open the door and when to slam it shut. They believed that as long as they held the remote control to the relationship, nobody could ever leave them feeling worthless. You were the person who kept giving them the remote. Every time they pulled away and you chased. Every time they went silent and you filled the space with your anxiety and your effort. Every time you accepted their return without demanding change, you handed them the control. You reinforced their belief that they could come and go as they pleased, that you would always be there waiting no matter how they treated you. So when you finally take that remote and throw it away, when you stop chasing, when you stop performing for their attention, you break the system they built inside their head. And they do not know how to handle it. Silence is something they never prepared for. They know how to handle need. They know how to handle demand. They know how to handle crying and begging and pleading because they have seen it before and they know exactly how to manage it. They can stay calm when someone is falling apart because that gives them a sense of superiority and control. But when you go quiet, when you stop reacting, when you show them that you are perfectly fine without them, their entire psychological defense system collapses. Here is what happens inside their mind. They check their phone, nothing. They wait, nothing. They tell themselves, you will text soon. Nothing. Hours pass, days pass, and the silence becomes louder than any argument ever could. They start to wonder if you are okay. They start to wonder if you have moved on. They start to wonder if maybe you never needed them the way they thought you did. And that thought is unbearable to them. Not because they love you, but because they always believed they were the one with the power. They always believed they could leave you hanging and you would still be there when they decided to come back. But now you are not there, and they do not know what to do with that reality. Your silence forces them to sit alone with themselves. And for someone who has spent their whole life avoiding emotional depth, sitting alone with their own thoughts is their worst nightmare. They cannot escape it. They cannot distract themselves from it. They have to confront the emptiness they have been running from for years. And for the first time in a long time, they feel something they do not want to feel. They feel replaceable. They feel forgotten. They feel like maybe they were not as special as they convinced themselves they were. And that is the lesson they never learned while you were still fighting for them. Keep watching, because in the next section, we are going to talk about what you need to hear right now. We are going to address the lies you have been telling yourself about why you were not enough.